From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello. You have reached the Badass Counseling Show. I'm Sven Erlinson, the host of the Badass Counseling Show, and it's great to have you here. I am joined in studio by a whole lot of people from all around the world checking in already. People from Washington State. We've got folks in from Belgium, New Jersey, Hanover, Pennsylvania. Folks from way down in Australia. We've got South Africa already represented. While the opening of the show was running, I was getting people checked in. And so we've got people all fired up and ready with their questions. And so we're just going to dive right in. But before we do, I want to welcome my cohorts here. KC is over in the booth, and I've got Rob the Rocket. What say ye, Rob?
Got everybody, everywhere, everything's ready to go.
There it is. He said it, folks. So I've got Lori on TikTok saying, how do I help my daughter realize her worth and ditch her deadbeat? Okay, so Lori, obviously you are old enough to have a daughter with a deadbeat husband or boyfriend. And so at this stage of life, let me tell you what my mom used to say when her kids reached their 20s or so, and I remember her saying it directly to me. So by the time I'm in my 20s, my mom is in her mid-60s, okay? And mid to late 60s. And she said, Sven, you know I love you. You know, I was always told I was loved by both my parents. She said, Sven, if you need advice, if you want advice, I'm going to trust that you will come to me for it. I think by the time she came to me with her sixth kid, I think she had stopped trying to give advice. And it was sort of refreshing that I'm going to let you live your life and I'm here if you need me. And it wasn't oppressive, and it was just you be you. And unfortunately, as our children age, to some degree, it's their life now. And so you're saying, how do I help my daughter realize her worth and ditch her deadbeat? I'll be very honest with you, Lori, to some degree, your daughter, we've all heard it, you have to hit rock bottom, or as I talk about in my book, there's a hole in my love cup. Change will not occur until the pain gets bad enough. And we've all been in crappy relationships before, and sometimes it has to get so bad that we finally see it for ourselves. I am going to assume that you have made your truth known to your daughter about her life or about her deadbeat partner, and there's really nothing more you can do at that point except continue to confirm for her that you are there for her and that you love her and that you support her and you are there if she needs anything at all. But you cannot confirm her worth fully until she is ready to confirm her own worth by finally finding her no. Her no where she says, no, enough. This is enough. If she opens up to you, use it as an opportunity, but don't ram it down her throat. All right? Most importantly, let her talk. If she comes to you and she wants to open up, she's just feeling heavy, or she has a heavy heart, or is sad or whatever, don't use that as an opportunity to manipulate her. Use that as an opportunity to simply listen. Do you want to know why? Because when people flush out their feelings, that's when they see the path most clearly. But if they have one more person trying to shove their truth down my throat, if I'm trying to open up and now I have you trying to shove your truth down my throat, they become full, and they may even resist because a part of her does love this man. Okay? So very often, what people most need is simply to feel heard. And furthermore, she'll trust you more the less you're trying to manipulate her. So sometimes we just let someone talk and we give them our love and we give them support and say things like, that must be really hard. And what's the hardest part, or what's the scariest part? And then they begin to trust you more because they know you don't have an agenda, or at least you're not forcing your agenda. All right, next question. Okay. And in a way, we've got a follow-up to that. Ash Boyer asked the question, what are some ways I can help my teenage son gain self-confidence? The obstruction to self-confidence in a young person, really in any of us, the growth, the way past it is not to infuse the person with something. It's to extract from the person something. So if you're wanting to help someone gain self-confidence, you don't try to pump messages into them of how great they are. Yes, you can do some of that, But in the end, it's not going to land. Why? Because they have something inside of them that is countering those messages. What's really needed is an extraction of the messages inside of them saying you suck. If you really want to do the deep work, help them discover where the hell those messages came from and what precisely those messages are. So, and that's precisely what I wrote the book for. There's a hole in my love cup to help you drill down and identify and extricate yourself from, or do a little surgery on yourself at the soul level of cutting out those messages. Identifying them is the trickiest part. And cutting out those messages telling you you're not good enough, you're a loser, you're no good, because that's what you're fighting against. So even if you pump in more positive messages trying to boost their self-confidence, they still have those negative messages inside. So wouldn't it make more sense to go inside and pull out the negative messages? To which you're saying, yeah, but how the fuck do I do that? And I say, well, I could spend the next hour and a half explaining it to you, or you just honestly just get the book, or honestly, just listen to the podcast. It's free, where I'm counseling people on the show, and you'll begin to get a better feel for it. Or join our free Badass Counseling group on Facebook. It's free. Or watch the 1,700 free videos I've posted on social media. And there are so many fucking questions in those. Then get pen and paper and just start fucking journaling and drilling down. Because the bottom line is this. To the person who says, what are some ways I can help my teenage son gain self-confidence? There is nothing you can do more. Ash is the person's name. There's nothing you can do more to help your teenage son. There's nothing more you can do to improve your parenting that will more greatly impact your son than healing your own past. Because the roots of your child's lack of self-confidence are found in your past. Heal that, and the entire calculus of your child's life and your parenting changes forever. And for the record, the healing of your own past does not have to last forever. Next question.
Sven, over on YouTube, we have Sandy. I can relate to this in a way. She says, I've been in a very verbally abusive marriage for 38 years. I want to leave, but at 71, I find it hard.
And Sandy, if you and I were talking at a bar or in a counseling session, I would ask you simply the question, what's the scariest part? What's the scariest part, Sandy? And I'm willing to bet the scariest part of walking away from a long-term shitty relationship is the idea of not having someone, the idea of being alone, the fear that I'll never find someone again, especially being 71. I'm 57, so you've got 14 years on me. And I know that as we age, not only can you see the finish line of life, but the idea of doing those remaining years alone is scary and it's sad. And that's what you've got to face. And it's a choice. Would I rather be alone without this negative, massive presence? Or would I rather be with the massive negative presence, but at least I'm not alone? That's ultimately the question you're facing. Rob, I want to ask you, because you're closer in age.
Yeah.
What would you speculate is going through Sandy's, what would you speculate would be the struggle of someone in that situation?
The primary fear is starting over when you are at that age.
Yeah.
You feel like, well, when you're younger, it's a much easier process to find someone who is also about your age and go on from there. But at 71, it's, am I going to be healthy? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be taking care of someone? Is somebody going to be taking care of me? There are these extra fears that come in when you are, let's say, over 70.
And so what, as you see it, is the answer to sorting through those fears so that they don't consume you and so that you can actually move through the process and have some life?
You have to be present in your age and in the present day. And just believe that there is a future if you're willing to take it.
There you heard it. Thanks, Rob. That was good.
I got to give that advice to myself, my friend.
That's fair. You've heard me say before, often we teach best what we most need to learn. I've got a question here from Chosen J. Chosen J says, my parents are going through psychosis, flat earth, etc. How do I deal with the pain of family in cults? Okay, very simply, a couple of things. One, when we have a family member going through some sort of mental health crisis, if that is in fact what it is, or is it, you sort of mix two things there, psychosis, and you also mentioned family in cults. So one or the other, I mean, which is worse, chicken or the egg? Well, not really chicken or the egg, but, who's to say which is worse? And that's not really the point. You're basically saying I'm dealing with both. You're with people who are bringing a lot of likely pain and chaos in their wake. They are in your life. And so part of what you're likely dealing with is, do I keep them in my life? How much distance do I need to create in order to protect myself? Do I give myself permission to create distance from them? And that would be one of my first questions, Jay. Do you give yourself permission to create distance from them so that you can breathe, so that you can live? You ask, how do I deal with the pain? First of all, you got to create distance. You got to give yourself permission. You've got to matter enough to you that you give yourself distance from those things, those people in your life that are sucking the fucking life out of you. Second of all, that pain and the fears that go with it, that you may never have that relationship, that they may just be off the deep end or whatever, you need to be flushing those out in your journaling. Write them letters that you don't send to them, telling them everything you're feeling and everything you're thinking, but you need to flushing out because you are so swollen right now with so many feelings and so many fears. And until all that crap is out of you, all that pain, all that fear, all that anxiety, until all of that is out of you, it's still in you. And it's chewing you up from inside and it's just fucking killing you. And that's sucking the life energy out of you. So you've got to go into it and begin to purge it. You have to give it an exit point. And that's what the journaling is for. I mean, you can do it in counseling, but that costs a lot of money. So you can do counseling and journaling, but I say do it in journaling and writing letters that you don't send, getting it out of you more and more and more. And then the path will become clear. It'll be easier to navigate life, but you have to get all of those emotions out of you. Next question. If I am going through the healing process with your book and sessions, do you recommend not dating until I am through it for some time? That's a fair question. And that's, that's one that a lot of people ask. The truth is, two things. One, generally, I do recommend if you've just come out of a relationship recently, or if you know you have quite a few issues from your last relationship or from your past or your childhood, just take a breather and take some time to go deep into that. Why? Because it's so easy to use a relationship as a distraction from doing the real fucking work. Because think about it. Once you're dating someone, what's exciting? There's a shiny thing to focus on. Fuck it. I'll get to my healing work later. No, you won't. No, you won't. Most people, or very often, people only do healing work when they have to, when they're down and it's like, fuck, I got to do this work. They don't do it when things are going well. Why would I fuck with the equation if things are going well? So my recommendation, take some time and don't date. On the other hand, fuck it. If you want to date, go fucking date. But you may find that your problems haven't gone anywhere. They're still inside you, which means all those problems from your past, Kelly, you're dragging with you into your next freaking relationship. So you are going to be part of fucking up the next one. And as I talk about in the book, there's a hole in my love cup. Unhealthy people come in twos. A healthy person will, by definition, not ever get into a relationship with an unhealthy person. Why? They'll sniff that shit out in about 2 seconds and they won't go near it. Why? Because they know the price themselves. Furthermore, a truly healed and healthy person will not stay in a relationship with an unhealthy person. So as an aside, if you're in a relationship with someone who keeps saying, you're the problem, 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 and yet they're staying in the relationship, I call bullshit. If you're so fucking healthy, why are you staying in the fucking relationship? That's bullshit. You wouldn't. No, if you're staying in it, you're staying in it because you got your own shit in you. Point is, no, I would recommend, in all honesty, Kelly, I would recommend take some time alone because it's too fucking easy to distract yourself with shiny things, with happy things. And as I talk about in the book, it's very easy to just try to make yourself happy as a way to change your life. But the real work isn't done by doing more things that make you happy. The real work gets done. The real changing of your life gets done by removing all the things that are raw sewage inside of you, that are sucking the life out of you. That's where the real growth happens. And it's best to do that when you're not dating, because if you're dating, you're not going to fucking do the work. Most people wouldn't. All right, next question. Luna says, how do you learn to love yourself? Will that happen when the shit gets flushed? You just answered your own question. Yes. You learn to love yourself. As I was talking about earlier with someone else, you learn to love yourself when we were talking about self-confidence. Ash was asking over on TikTok, I want to help my teenage son develop self-confidence. And what I said is, if the person is lacking self-confidence, it doesn't matter how much nice stuff you pour into and complimentary stuff you pour into the person, though that's important. And giving them things that they can get proficient at. Back when I was in wrestling in high school, our coach always scheduled a pushover team for our first match of the season. Confidence builder, right? So getting proficient at something will build your confidence. But in the end, the best thing you can do is to go inside and find out what are the messages inside of me that are undermining my belief in self, undermining my confidence. In other words, that's giving attention to self. And so, Luna, when you ask, how do you learn to love yourself, especially as a grown adult, if you're struggling with loving yourself, it means you have some very powerful messages inside of you, basically telling yourself that you're unlovable or not good enough. So it's not learning to love yourself. It's identifying those messages inside of you that basically say you suck, and it's beginning the extraction process of those. All right. And that's what I wrote the fucking book for. There's a hole in my love cup. All right. Next question. This is from Shelly over on TikTok. Shelly says, do you find Gen Xers more comfortable with dealing with unhealthy relationships? Because in our days, there's no second half of the question, but I'm going to just take that question as it sits. Do I find Gen Xers more comfortable dealing with unhealthy relationships? No, I don't. I am a Gen Xer. 1967, I was born. Summer of love, baby. Yeah, right on. And my parents were the furthest thing from fucking hippies in the whole world, right? Maybe in their own way, in their own spirit, but are Gen Xers more comfortable dealing with unhealthy relationships? No, I think Gen Xers, just like the generations prior and a whole lot of folks after it, are very often conditioned to not deal with unhealthy relationships, to stay stuck, to not address them, to not even know what the hell they're addressing. Gen Xers are in some ways just as bad at doing relationships as any other generation. But we bring our own flair. We have our own toughness about us, and that's part of our problem. Is we can be tough, which is good, but we can also be tough, which is bad in relationships. And sometimes being strong is your biggest curse in life. Because very often being strong, and I'm sort of riffing here outside of the Gen X thing, but I tell folks that you want to know what the biggest difference is between people who are happy and people who are unhappy? It's the way they define strength. Now, I know you're thinking, what the hell does definition of strength have to do with happiness? Because people who are unhappy generally define strength as, I can take it. Oh, I can take it. No, I can handle it. Oh, it's no big deal. And they take on more and more and more, and they eat more and more and more shit. People who are unhappy define strength as, I can take it. People who are happy generally define strength as, no, I'm not going to take it. That's enough. They'll take a little bit, and they understand the value, and sometimes you got to take it. But generally, a person who is happy is a person who draws a hard boundary and says, no, I'm not going to fucking take it. Fuck that shit. And this is why, if you've ever gone through a really bad relationship and you've done the healing work from it and you've gotten yourself out, do you know what happens to your pain threshold? In that past relationship where you're just eating shit and you're just fucking getting your ass handed to you. And then you finally get out. And if you do some of the healing work, your pain threshold drops. That means in your next relationship, it's like, no way am I going to tolerate that much shit ever again. It's not that I can't. I'm just not. Exactly. It's not that I can't be strong. I have no desire. Why would I want to be in a relationship where I'm always having to be strong, so to speak? Where I'm always having to be tough, and fuck that. Who wants to fucking live that way? Right? So you change your definition of strength. So it's very often what I have to help clients see is that your own strength is getting in the way because you're just tolerating more and more and more. And at some point, God or the universe or whatever will break you. Why? Because then you'll finally say enough. Eventually you won't be able to take it. And then you'll say enough, and your pain will get so bad that you'll finally say no. And that no is your own your own self rising up and say, this is enough. Stop. I'm not going to eat this shit anymore. All right, next question.
I got one here, Sven.
Lay it on me, Moo Cow.
All right. Clara on YouTube says, I'm getting married at the end of the month. I haven't told my side of the family. Mom hasn't been there for me. Something in me still wants her there. I just want the sober side of Mom. Why do I feel bad?
Well, you still wanting Mom there is something I've talked about many times, and that is that even I've got clients who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s who are still longing for the approval, the connection, the acceptance from, the connection with, the love from the parent, even if the parent is dead. That longing to connect with the parent, even when you know you're never going to get it. Clients in their 40s, 50s, 60s who say, I know I'm never going to get it. I have a 50-year pattern of behavior in my parent, and I know I'm never going to get that connection and that love and the acceptance I've always wanted. But that doesn't change the fact that saying that I know I'm never going to get it is not the same as I don't want it. You still long for that love and connection with your mother. And on what day more than the day of your wedding? Of course. It makes total sense you want it. But then a part of you is like, but she's just mental. She's just out of control when you talk about sober mom, and then clearly it must be intoxicated or out of control mom you don't want. And it's good that you don't want that, because it potentially ruin your special day, yours and your husband's or wife's special day. Right. And you feel bad because a part of you wants her there, and you want that connection, and part of you feels bad not having family there because you feel that connection, and yet you feel like you're hurting them, but also it's part of you that you're losing. And maybe as a child, you were conditioned that family is everything and you should always family and always this. But saying family is everything when family's being fucked up to you, that's not right. So you standing up for yourself is very important. I applaud you for doing it. And it's natural that you would feel some guilt. And so you do your journaling and you flush out those feelings and so forth. But you have to honor your boundaries. You do, and you're doing that. And I applaud you for that. It is natural that you would feel sad and miss your mom and want her there. And it is natural that you would feel guilty and not having her there. And it is also wise and smart that you are protecting your boundaries and recognizing that you can make your wedding whatever you damn well please. All right, next question.
Hey, Sven, let's take a minute to talk about Community Plus. What's been your experience with the folks that have signed up? How's it going?
It's great. Community Plus, we've had it now for about 4 months, and it is the limited enrollment subscription healing and growth group over on badasscounseling.com. As you all know, we have a free support group on Facebook, and there are about 45,000 members. It's called the Badass Counseling Group, and it's free flowing, and we have moderators. Trilina is one of them, and she's fantastic, and we have a couple of others, all volunteers. However, it's a bit unwieldy at times, and so we started a limited enrollment, max enrollment of just 1,000 on the website, badasscounseling.com, and it's called Community Plus, and it's for people who want to go next level. And it is predicated on everyone reading the book. There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and there are so many free resources for the monthly subscription rate. There's do-it-yourself videos. There are monthly drawings for one-on-one counseling, monthly drawings for small group counseling with me. You get priority pass access to be considered to be on the show for free counseling on the Badass Counseling Show. Priority pass access. If you want ongoing one-on-one counseling, you go right up to the front of the waiting list, all sorts of things. So check it out. It's Community Plus at badasscounseling.com.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform, and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
We are back with a lightning round. Nadine over on Facebook says, we were just talking about strength and how my own strength can corrupt my own happiness, and my own strength can corrupt my relationships. Nadine says, amen, basically, thank you, in her response. And then she says, I am too strong for many. No doubt that's true, Nadine. And what you may want to do, checking your own blind spots in your own self-work, maybe your own strength is actually hindering your own self and your own happiness. And what you might want to look into in your own self-work, particularly your own journaling, is, am I being strong as a protective shell? I'm protecting my inner goo, that I'm really goo inside, and I have a lot of fears and all this pain, and so I have to put on the shell to protect it because I'm afraid. I can't even begin to tell you guys how many people I've counseled over the last 35 years, and one of the refrains I have heard, I hear so many from men in their 50s, or I hear so many from kids under age 25, and one of the refrains that I hear from women in their late 30s to mid 30s to mid 40s is, Sven, I'm tired of being strong. That they've had to not just carry everyone else and be strong for everyone else, but also this notion that ever since they were kids, or for a very, very long time, they've had to protect themselves, always protect themselves, their authentic selves. And so if you're having to be strong all the time, is it possible that you're living in a world of fear because you were taught that you weren't good enough or your authentic self didn't matter? And so you're having to protect your soft inner self, or you've been taught that you were shit. And so you keep that inner self, your true self, locked down, because if anyone saw it, you were convinced they wouldn't like it. And maybe that was never really true to begin with. So if you're having to carry a shell or be strong all the time, you may want to look into how much of that is fear-driven, and if your real self in there is actually good, and if it's time to begin to heal that and welcome it out so that you can live as your authentic self. All right, next question. Oh, and this is in response to the question you brought up over on YouTube. Yvonne here on TikTok says, I didn't invite any of my family to my wedding, and I'm so glad I didn't. They didn't respect my significant other. So there's a bit of wisdom from Yvonne. All righty. Julie says, I'm too strong for many men as well. I don't like to take help, but I'm always willing to help others. And Dana says, I'm too strong. Nadine says, it hinders my relationships. I'm always making steps. And so now I just want to draw one distinction here. When it comes to dating and pairing up, finding a partner and so forth, growing into a relationship, when you are exhibiting any personality characteristic in your life, you've got to ask yourself, am I doing this because this is my authentic self, or am I doing this out of some fear or trying to be something? And if I'm trying to be something, underneath that, there's some fear. Always there's some fear driving it. So if you're being strong, let's say, as several of these women here on Facebook are saying, if you're being strong because it's driven by fear, well, then you've got to sort that out and figure out what the hell you're afraid of. Because if it's driving people away, then you're driving away people based on your own fear. Okay, that's one scenario. But if you're just being your authentic self and it comes off to some people as strong, but it's not being driven by fear, it's just who I am, then don't stop being who the fuck you are. And trust that when the timing is right, the universe will have a person cross your path who delights in your strength. I've been in a relationship with 11 years from an extraordinarily strong woman who is also extraordinarily sweet and gentle and frail at times. And Rob would attest to that. KC would attest to it. They both know her. And she's both fierce and soft. And there are a lot of men who would not be able to handle her, or just wouldn't want to, and that's okay. But let's be really honest. I'm a giant fucking pain in the ass in my own ways. I'm a very, very rough around the edges man, but I'm also a very, very gentle person. To the point where a lot of guys, if they didn't know me, if they just heard me talk or whatever, or just read my stuff, they'd say, oh, this guy's a fucking pussy. I get that all the time on social media. I always laugh. I'll respond with something like, how come guys like you never say that shit to my face? And so the point is, okay, so a lot of guys don't like your strength. Okay, so you're not right for a lot of guys. The question is, do you have the courage to just be you and wait and trust that when the right ones come, the right ones come? Or is it, I got to have someone, so I'm going to change who I am because I'm too strong for men. So I'm going to weaken myself. I'm going to soften myself. Oh, then you're not going to be authentic. So again, are you being strong because it's your authentic self, or are you being strong because you're covering up or you're afraid of something and it stems from your past? So in other words, and it doesn't just relate to strength, it relates to, are you, in my case, loud or are you a quiet person? Well, I'm both, but yeah, I can be a fucking loud person. And a lot of people would say, well, Sven, that's a turnoff to so many women. And so when I was younger, to some degree, I would be less loud. And then I'm like, well, that's just fucking dumb. Or swearing, oh, it turns off. That's a turnoff. Yeah. Not to the people I like to be with. Oh, really, Sven? What does your girlfriend think of that? She swears more than I do. She grew up in the Bronx, for fuck's sake. Good luck with that one. She's an Italian from the Bronx in the 1960s and 70s. You think I can outswear her? Oh, yeah. So it's just like, fucking be yourself, for fuck's sake. But that means you're not selling yourself to win someone. And we're almost conditioned to, you need to do this, you need to do that to sell yourself. You're in a sales process. Versus just fucking be yourself and trust that the right one will cross your path. Or is it, no, I got to have someone right now. I got to have someone. And I've been there. So I'm kind of mocking it, but I've been there. I get it. And the only reason I'm mocking it is because I know the neurosis. I know the frenetic anxiety of wanting someone right now. I hate being alone. I just want someone. I'm so sad. We've all been there. But in the end, the challenge in life is to have the courage to be authentic, trusting that when the timing is right, that the gods, the universe, God, whatever your theology is, will bring the person that is best suited to who you most authentically are. And though the wait be longer for the person, the joy will be richer because it is predicated on the notion that you are your authentic self. And there is no joy like sharing life with someone when you are authentic. All right, next question.
You talking to me? You must be talking to me. There's nobody else here. You talking to me?
What's your name? All right. Kayla Dawn says, yes, but being strong and vulnerable at the same time takes strength. People don't like seeing. Yeah, so they don't like seeing it. So what, Kayla? So those aren't the people for you. Do you have the courage to be it anyway? And see, this is what I talk about in my book. There's a hole in my love cup, that the more you have the courage to be, say, do, and become who you authentically are, three things are going to happen. You're going to lose people. Either you're going to walk away from them or they're going to walk away from you. Because they want you to be who you've always been. The person who fit in the nice little boxes made out of ticky-tack, all right? They want you to fit in the little box, and you're being who you really want to be, so you're going to lose people. Second thing is, you're going to begin to effortlessly attract people who love what you're becoming. Third, shit's going to fall out of the sky. Magical shit. And I know it sounds hokey and stupid. It happens all the fucking time. But it requires the courage to just be your authentic self. All right, next question. Why do my parents want to ruin my happiness? You know what? I have seen this so much over decades of counseling. And Shannon, if they're doing it now, they were likely doing it when you were a child. Some people have so much pain inside themselves that they enjoy exacting pain on others. Generally, we call those bullies on the playground. But your bully was inside your own home. Now, did your parents undergo some massive transformation of character such that they started doing this when you were 20 or when you were 40? No. In all likelihood, if they're doing it now, they've been doing it your whole life, which means you are never safe inside your own home. They've been wanting to ruin your happiness. And so what happens when a child is conditioned in that every time I'm happy, someone is cutting me or cutting down my accomplishment? Well, yeah, sure, you won, but it's not like I think the judges gave it to you, or your competition wasn't really stiff, or sure, you got 7 A's, but what's this B plus? You know, they're always undermining you. So then, do you know what that child does to be safe? What happens inside the child is they realize it's not safe to be happy. So they don't strive. They don't do anything they want to do. They forever try to make people around them happy, and they subject their own happiness. They stuff down their own happiness because they realize that happiness comes with pain. And you're asking your question, well, why do my parents do that? Well, honestly, what you really need to explore is your timeline of your birth is where I would start. Is it possible you weren't wanted even before you were born? You'd be surprised how many people, when they actually look at the timeline, realize, oh, fuck. It's quite possible that before you were even the size of the tip of my pen, if the tip of my pen is, let's just say about 5 millimeters across, that's what, 5,000 microns? I think that's the math on that. So let's say you were 50 microns in size, right? You're a fertilized embryo, and your mom misses her first period. What if she didn't want to be pregnant? What if your dad didn't want to have a child? Is it possible you've been hated since the time you were 50 microns long? Or is it possible that, one parent was angry at the other parent and they took it out on you? Or is it possible one parent just had so much pain in their life they used their child as their shit stick? All of these things I've seen so many times, but they're using the child as their own personal shit stick. They are choosing to hurt the child. The why is almost irrelevant. The bottom line is you have parents who have chosen to hurt and undermine and ruin your happiness. That's the problem. And at some point, it has taught you to believe that Shannon says, yes, my entire life. Exactly. And so you've been taught that you're not worthy of happiness. You've been conditioned to not seek your own happiness. And fundamentally, at some point, you're going to have to do the work of going inside and realize, first of all, you have absolutely horseshit parents. Who the fuck would do that to a child? Second of all, you've got to go in and drill down and determine the impact of those and the core beliefs that it was taught you to believe about yourself and your own self-worth and so forth. And if you want the quick way, again, that's what I wrote the book for. There's a hole in my love cup. It'll just drill you right down. But you got to have the courage to not just read it, but actually do the journaling exercises in the book to help you drill down and begin the extraction of those bullshit beliefs you were taught to believe about yourself. All right, next question. Let's see.
Hey, Sven, on YouTube, this is interesting. This has a couple of prongs, this question, and it's a short one.
Go ahead.
It's from Kimberly, who says, how can I let go of my children as they become adults and move in with my ex?
Oh.
Couple of prongs there.
Did you see what I saw in that one?
I did. Yeah,
Rob's going to read that question over again from Kimberly.
Yeah.
Kimberly, listen up to your own question, and the rest of you, listen up to Kimberly's question.
How can I let go of my children as they become adults and move in with my ex?
Okay, so Kimberly is saying, how do I let go of my children so that I can move in with my ex?
Oh, no, the children are moving in with the ex.
But I thought they're becoming adults. And because what I heard was, Kimberly, can you clarify for us? Are the kids moving in as well? Because what I heard was, how do I basically cut off my kids so that I can go live with my boyfriend or whatever?
Yeah, or the children are moving in with the ex, and she's
with her,
assuming that they're not. Well, I don't know.
Track it, Kimberly. Okay. We need it. We need clarification on that one. That's going to be a juicy one. All right, next. I'm going to move on until we hear back from Kimberly. All right, next question. Susan says, I hope that I have not passed on my people-pleasing trait to my daughter. How do I fix it if I did? Susan, if your people-pleasing trait was strong, to be very honest with you, more than likely you did. What got passed on was either that same people-pleasing or she learned from whoever was taking from you. So she likely learned one or the other. Why? Children learn not so much just by what we're saying, but more often than not, more by what we're doing. You are modeling for her, as her mother, what a woman should be and do. And if your daughter loves you, as every child loves their parent, and I talk about this in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, children love parents more than parents love children. And I know every parent in listening is like, that's fucking stupid. That's bullshit. Yeah, read the chapter. Then you'll see. But your daughter loves you and she admires you, so she's going to copy you. So you having a strong people-pleasing trait is not necessarily a bad thing as long as it's coupled with boundaries. Are you also teaching her with people-pleasing? Are you also teaching her the strong capacity to say no? Strong boundaries, the ability to stand up for herself. And are you just telling her she should, or are you doing it yourself? Because if you're modeling people pleasing and having strong boundaries, God bless you. You're teaching her fucking balance. You're teaching her to honor her own boundaries, and yet you're also teaching her the joy of giving. That's beautiful. That's balance, baby. That's wonderful. But if you're just teaching her one message, eesh. Now, you ask, well, if I did teach her just people pleasing, how do I fix it? If I did, by healing your own past, Susan, because it's your past, your own conditioning that has caused you to be strictly a people pleaser. Therefore, if you're just trying to change your actions or just change her actions, it don't mean shit. You want to know why? As I talk about in the book, trying to change behaviors never changes behaviors long term. Why? Because what's driving behaviors is the core beliefs way down here, way down below the surface. And until you change those core beliefs, those behaviors up on the surface will just rubber band right back to what they always were. You have to change the core beliefs, which is why you have to go into where those fucking actions and core beliefs came from. You were taught either by a well-meaning parent or a parent who was living in fear. You were taught that the way to get love or at least avoid pain is by pleasing others. Therefore, if you don't heal that, you are passing that exact same thing on to your child. And the way you fix it is not by talking. There's nothing you can say that's going to change in her what your actions are doing. Right? She's learning from your actions. Even if you're serving her, then you're teaching her fundamentally to just be a taker. Well, that could be even worse, turning her into an extreme taker, what most people call a narcissist. So how do you change it all? All you have to do is heal you. You won't even really have to do much with her. If you can have the courage to heal you, oh fuck, the whole world changes at that point. And I'm not overwriting the scene there. Just get the fucking book, do the work, or don't get the book. I don't care. But start listening to my free podcast and start watching my videos. They're all free. Everything there is free. And then get a pad of paper and a pen and start following all the questions that I bring up and diving down deep into yourself, and you'll begin to identify what your real problems are. And you extract those core messages and everything starts to change in your parenting. So the focus you need to realize, Susan, you're focusing on the symptoms. In trying to change your daughter, you are focusing on the symptoms. You're focusing on the sore throat and the stuffy nose. By focusing on healing your own past, you're focusing on the virus that is creating the stuffy nose and the sore throat. Next question. Have we heard back from Kimberly?
Oh, yes, we did.
All right, so read the original question and Kimberly's follow-up. All right, you guys, listen up.
Okay,
listen up. Here we go.
Kimberly said, how can I let go of my children as they become adults and move in with my ex? And then she clarifies a couple times, they are moving in with their father, who is my ex-husband. They were living with me, and as they reached 18, they are moving in with their father, who is my ex-husband.
Okay, so, and what's Kimberly doing? By herself then?
We don't know. She just wants to know, how can I let go of my children?
Okay, so the problem, this helps. So then it's fundamentally one fundamental problem. This is about her. It's not helping her children, right? Because the children are wanting to move in with their dad. So there's no problem for the children then. I mean, they may have some, but if they're choosing to move in with their dad, they're going to have some sadness over leaving mom, but it sounds like they're choosing it.
And she wants to know how she can let go.
Well, no, I know the issue with mom, and I'll get to that. I was just wanting to make sure, the kids, because that's, highest priority. But now how do you let go? Well, the thing is, it's just like letting go of love, Kimberly. I mean, it is love. It's your kids, right? But I mean a lover, right? What keeps us holding on? So let's say, my first wife broke it off with me. My second wife, I broke it off with her. A year later, after I broke it off with my second wife, a year later, I still wasn't moving forward. Part of me was moving forward and wanted to move forward, but a part of me wasn't. And I really had to look at myself. And I'd been journaling and so forth on my anger at my second wife and for blowing up a good relationship and so forth, even though I was the one that left. But I realized what was keeping me stuck. I had one foot sort of going forward, but I had one foot stuck in the past. And what was really keeping me stuck in the past wasn't my anger at her or my sadness. It was my love. I still loved her. And what you're struggling with and what you're going to struggle with your kids is two things. One, that you love your kids and you just miss having the people that you love in your life. And that is so fucking normal. This is normal emptiness shit, all right? So one of the things a very simple tool that you can do is in your computer or pen and paper, start writing them love letters that you do not send. The reason you don't send it is because if you do think you're going to send it, you're going to edit those letters. Oh, they wouldn't want to read this, or oh, I really shouldn't say that. That's not the purpose of these letters. Because if I'm thinking I might send it, I'm changing how I'm going to say, right? I'm filtering my words. Whereas if it's for healing purposes solely, then you're just flushing out all your feelings. And that's what's happening here. You are so pregnant with feelings, and it's just aching from the inside. And all those feelings and thoughts and fears need to come out. Okay? That's the purpose of writing these letters. And it's to flush out all of that love that you feel for your children. But there's something else going on here, Kimberly. And this is sort of the insidious, ugly part that we don't like to talk about as parents. And I have children who are 33 and 30. Okay? So I'm not just making shit up here. I'm not just whistling Dixie. All right? And that is this. To some greater or lesser degree, in those years that your children have lived with you, your children have to some greater or lesser degree been sources of love pouring into your love cup. Now, if you've read my book or you know any of my work, you know that the parent exists to pour love into the child's love cup. That's what parents exist to do. The child does not exist to pour love into my love cup. That is not the child's job, ever. If the child chooses to do it at 8 or 18 or 68, that is optional. Optional. Now, there is the expectation you show respect because we're human beings and you do your chores and you don't get to be a jerk, but it's not their requirement to pour love into the adult's love cup, because then I'm having the child to meet my needs. It's like back when I was an NCAA strength coach, I used to ask the coaches, each coach individually, what percent does your team exist to like you and what percent do you want them to respect you? And the higher the number that they wanted to be liked by their team, the more that higher number directly correlated to their number of losses in a season. No lie. So if it was, I 60% want to be liked and 40% want to be respected, that team would win about 40% of its games in a year, lose about 60%. I had one coach who said, I want to be liked like 5% by my team. I really couldn't give a shit if I'm liked or not. And that team won 12 national championships in 25 years. Same way with parenting. If you are using your children to get your own love needs met, you are using your children. And so, but we all do it. We all fucking do it. I even do it sometimes where I want to post about my children. And I always have to ask myself, am I posting because, for my children, or am I posting for me? And even when I'm like supposedly posting for my children, it's still for me. If I'm really fucking honest. My daughter got married this summer to her wife. And my daughter's fucking beautiful. I mean, and her wife is beautiful. And it was just the coolest fucking thing, man. Total gay wedding, man. It was fucking awesome. And it was just part of me, like, hey, cool points for me, So I'm not saying I'm exempt, man. Like I'm some fucking Buddhist fucking monk on the side of a fucking mountain or some shit. But part of what you may be struggling to let go of is that they were, to some degree, Kimberly, your source of love or a significant source of love in your life. And now that's fucking gone. And so if you and I were in counseling and I were really asking you the hard questions, I would ask you, what percent of your flow of love into your love cup in your life was provided by your children living under your roof? Ooh, now that's a hard fucking question to answer. Not hard to answer, hard to admit. How much of the love pouring into your love cup came from your own children? And if that number is high, like, anything over 30%, that's what you're struggling to let go of. That, oh shit, I've just lost my love source. And so you're going to have to do a lot of releasing on that, but also you're going to have to do a lot of hard soul searching on, geez, I've been using my kids to meet my own love needs. And then you've got to ask, well, where the hell is that coming from? I think I've told you guys before that when I was in my 20s, I was in a long-term relationship with a woman who, when we were dating, she said to me, yeah, I want to have children so that I can have someone who will love me forever. And I knew even at that age how fucked up that was. I knew even in my 20s, it's like, whoa, that's not why you have kids, lady. They don't exist for you. It's like, oh, gosh. Yeesh. All right, next question. We're going to take just a couple more, and then we're going to call it a night here. Their daggone platform just scrolls when I'm trying to hold it in place and read the question. Nix says, basically, this guy that I'm dating, why does he think that every woman should just do what he says, is basically what it was. Why does this person I know think every woman should basically do what he says? Is that what it was? It was something like that. Why is he that way? Here it is. Why does a friend of mine think every woman needs to just do as they say? Do as they say or do as he says? See, now when I reread it, if it's, I think every woman should do as they say, I think you're mean to say do as he says. Because do as they say means your friend is basically saying, hey, if you say you're going to do something, then do it. You need to do what you say. No, I think, Nick, what you're saying is, why does your friend think every woman should do what he says? Because he can't handle people being their own individual selves. He wants to control. Control is driven by fear and a sense of power. He wants to feel powerful by controlling other people. Right. And that's not somebody you want to be with. Why? It's going to suck the fucking life out of you. I have a dear friend, former client, who became a good friend and who lost all touch with. Why? Because the man that she's with is totally controlling her. And she reached out to me last time I heard from her and said, Sven, I've lost all energy. I've become depressed. Why is that? I said, because the person doesn't want you to be who you authentically are. And the person is terrified by it. And the person is sucking the life out of you and your children, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what's happening with this friend of yours. And the fact that it's troubling you says that you like your friend and potentially are wanting to get more involved with your friend. But that's the type of person you don't want to get close to. And the type of people who get involved with control freaks, as Brenda is calling it on Facebook, are people who have very low self-esteem. Why? They just want somebody to like them and it feels good. Oh, somebody likes me and is interested in me. But you start walking down that path and then it's only leading to hell later. And they will threaten you and they will terrify you and keep you feeling trapped. All right, next question. Jerry asked the question, what do you do when everything you do and say is wrong? Implicit in Jerry's question is that your partner or parents or family are saying to you that everything you do and say is wrong, right? Not that, because I got news for you, Jerry, not everything you do and say is wrong. Now, I know that may sound silly, but Jerry, for instance, this question that you just wrote to me wasn't wrong. It's actually an excellent question. I guarantee you right now, of the thousands of people watching and listening to this around the world, many have been in relationships where they've been treated that exact same way. I know I have. Where everything you do and say is treated as if you're fucking stupid or you're hurt for everything you do and say. So I'm telling you right now, that question is not wrong. It's actually a really good question. So it's silly to think that everything you would do and say is wrong. So anyone who's trying to tell you that everything you do and say is wrong is someone manipulating the fuck out of you, someone trying to hurt you, someone trying to control you, someone who has so much pain inside of them that they want to make you hurt as well. That is not someone you want to be in a relationship with. The kind of person you want to be in a relationship with is someone who delights in you and wants you to feel good about yourself, and someone you want to make feel good about themselves. So you ask, what do you do when everything you do and say is wrong? When what you're really saying is, What I think you're really saying is, what do you do when you're in a relationship with someone who treats you as if everything you do and say is wrong? What do you do? Is you can stay in the relationship if you want, but then you have to set hard. If you're going to stay in the relationship, you basically have two choices: set hard boundaries and fight them every time, argue with them, hold your boundary every single time they try to treat you like it's always your fault and they're always right. But you're going to have so much fucking confrontation, it's going to suck the fucking life out of you. And no doubt the idea of doing that just drains you, because every time you've stood up to them before, what have they done? They've gunned you down, right? And so the idea of doing that just exhausts you, which is why you've been backing down so much. Or you can just back down and eat shit and eat shit and eat shit, which is likely what you've been doing. Well, that's not working for you because you're fucking miserable, which is why you're even posting this question, right? So then that leaves the third option, and the third option is get the hell out of the relationship. But I'm betting you don't want to do that. And you want to know why I'm betting that? Because you're in a relationship where it's gotten so bad that you're treated as if everything you say and do is wrong. Well, if you're being treated that way, you've likely been in the relationship a long time. Well, why would somebody be in a relationship a long time being told that everything they say and do is wrong? They're staying in it because they really want to hold on to this person. I need you, I need you, I need you. Right. So that tells me you don't want to leave the relationship because you feel desperate, like you really need this person. So your tit is really in a ringer, isn't it? You want the person, you want them to like you, but you also want them to treat you nicely, but they're not treating you nicely. And so part of you wants to get out because you want to be treated nicely, but you don't want to get out because you're afraid of being alone. Because when you're alone, guess what happens? All those voices deep inside you come roaring up and they say, see, I suck. See, I'm no good. See, nobody loves me. See, I'm all alone. So the real problem, folks, is those messages down deep inside that were implanted in you as a child that said you're no good, you're unlovable, you're not wantable, the real you doesn't matter, which is why I wrote the book. There's a hole in my love cup. And it'll take you deep. This process does not fucking have to take forever. There's a reason this book is #2 on the Amazon bestseller list for inner child healing. It's been in the top 10 for the last 62 weeks on Amazon bestseller list for inner child healing because it's fast and it's fucking deep. And there's a workbook that goes with it. There's also a French version, a Spanish version. And if you've already gone through that and you wanted the 365-day daily meditational, inspirational book, there's Badass Wisdom. All right, guys, that is all the knowledge I have for one day. My brain now is officially empty. I have nothing else. Rob, what do you have to say?
I'm getting a little emotional over here, Sven, honestly,
Why?
because we have heard from Kimberly one more time. And seriously, I'm a little broken.
Why? What's going on with Kimberly?
She says, thanks, Sven and Rob. I have got a lot to process. They were my love source when my marriage broke down and during and after the divorce. It hurts to realize that is so true.
Kimberly, I want to share one thing with you. I had a conversation just this week with my girlfriend, and she tells me that when she was going through her divorce, that she would go in. There were a few times when she was so distraught that she would go in and crawl into her teenage daughter's bed and say, can I sleep with you tonight? And she would go in there and just cry and snuggle with her teenage daughter because she felt so alone. And she realized in retrospect that she was using her teenage daughter as a love source and as a comfort and as a sort of a mini psychologist. Now, in retrospect, she has since gone back to that daughter who's now well into adulthood and apologized and healed and so forth. And so you're not alone, Kimberly. And this isn't some unforgivable sin and so forth. And very often the first step to healing is seeing what we've done. And it does hurt to know that we've used our children to meet our own needs. It does hurt when we realize we've failed the people we love the most. And when we've inflicted pain or let them down. And so the best thing you can do is to begin to heal your own self, and then you will be best equipped to help your own children heal. And just one thing, Kimberly, and that is your children are 18. Oh my God. I get clients in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s who are still longing for the love, acceptance, approval, and connection from their parent, often a dead parent. So your children, trust me, they still love you and they still long for that approval and connection with you. So you haven't lost them. They may get mad at you or be mad at you right now or whatever, but they're going through a phase. And if you heal yourself, trust me, they want a relationship with you. And the more you heal yourself, the more you'll be able to be there for them and help them heal. All right, heal yourself, Kimberly. All right, guys, that is the extent of our wisdom and our knowledge and our ability to stay awake past 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, whatever it is. I love every last one of you. I think it's great. Thank you for your great questions. If you are interested in being on the show for a counseling session, please write into production@badasscounseling.com with a 1-paragraph explanation of what you're going through. On behalf of my team here, KC over in the booth and Rob the Rocket sitting next to me, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by 2-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.